Hello everyone, it's me, Joshua Tukes. For some of my students out there who've had me already, you might know me as Mr. Joshua. Anyway, I am an artist local here in Southern California, and I've been teaching art for a very long time, just with a variety of ages, and I just created my own series of art lessons on Gumroad.com. It's a package of 4 art lessons. You're going to get a wildlife series for the first volume that I'm doing, and we're going to be covering how to draw an eagle, a wolf, a deer. Actually, the deer is going to be for the demo that I'm about to show just now, but a turtle and a kangaroo. Now, with this series of videos, you're going to go over the basics of how to draw an animal. You're going to cover up things like how to start with basic shapes and forms, and then eventually adding texture and shading. And the other things that you'll be getting out of this video, they're about 45 minutes each. So you'll get some time to really hone in on your skills and have a finished picture by the end of each video. With that said, I also want you to know that I do art classes also in person. If you're local to the Inland Empire area, I do have an art studio that I work out of called the Phearless Art Studio, where I teach art classes for both children and teenagers. And we also do paint parties sometimes there too. So check that out, and I'll have a link, and you could really get some excitement out of attending these courses, and especially the paint parties if you're into those things. And also I teach art classes through the city of Moreno Valley with watercolor classes, and I'll have a link for that as well if you want to look into that. And that one is currently live on Zoom, while the other one's in person. Alright, with that said, please do check out the link for the Gumroad series of art classes that I have going. The benefit of having it on video is that you could play it whenever you want to play it, whatever time, and for however many people you have with you if you have more than one child at home. And you can pause it, fast forward it, rewind it, so it really works well with having something that people could watch over and over again. And then you're getting a series of videos that come together with a more longer form time to get all the details out of it. With all that said, check out this next segment that I'm about to show on how to draw a deer. It really gives you a good vibe of how I'll be running these digital art classes for Gumroad, and you'll have an understanding of what to expect. Alright, you guys take care, enjoy, look forward to seeing you soon.
Alright. So, for this lesson that we're going to do, we're going to be making a deer. This is what we're going to make. Kind of, a little reminiscent of the holidays. Not exactly a reindeer, but you can make it your own reindeer if you want. So, what I'm going to lower the opacity. And we're going to use this as a reference guide so you can see how I put it together, but using basic shapes and forms, so you know what I'm doing when I'm trying to see it in 3 dimensions and find the simplest shapes to create this deer. So I'm going to use a red pencil so you can see what I'm doing very clearly. First thing you're going to do, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit, and we're going to make a circle to capture the head of this deer. So right about here should be the circle, pretty much capturing the skull. So it's like right, a little bit on the top part of the nose is what we'll stop at. And then we're going to make a cross. A line that goes straight down the middle, and then a cross horizontally like that. Do it one more time. There we go. Now, if you're having a hard time with doing a circle, so it should be looking like this. So you have the plus sign and the circle. What you could do like a letter C and then a backwards letter C, or you could just keep practicing, doing circular motions until you get it to where you want. So just some methods to get a good circle in here. Even mine isn't perfect, but it's good enough for what I'm about to do. Alright, after you do that, then notice how the eyes are really on the side, and because the type of animal it is, the eyes are further on, these sides here, whereas predators, their eyes are more, towards the center, or in the front, like how it is with our own. Just a little fun fact for you. So let's do a circle here, and a circle here to capture the eyes. Now for the snout here, we want to keep in mind that although he's looking directly at us, there is a bit of a 3 dimensions towards, his face that we want to keep in our mind when approaching this. And it's like problem solving. So we got the basic structure of the head. So what we want to do for the snout, we want to see that right here is where the snout really begins. So we can make a line there, and then we make a line here and here that comes out, and then it curves. It's almost like a flashlight, not a flashlight, but a light bulb. Let me see, let me do that again. But you flip it upside down. Okay, so that's kind of like what you're doing right here, somewhat. Okay, now let me zoom in a little bit more. So it should look like this, which you have, just a circle, plus sign, 2 eyes, and this like upside down light bulb, somewhat. Now what we're going to do right here is the nose, and so it's a bit of a square in the beginning. So just make a square here, like that, and then you'll do a mouth right here. See how that looks? A square, then a mouth. And then you can bring the corner of that square right here, and the corner of this square right here, towards the center of the mouth. Alright? And that's what we'll have. Now, there's more that we're going to capture on the face as far as details go, but before we go further, let's back out a little bit, and we're going to make the neck. So we see how his neck is at a slight angle because he's, his body's here and he's facing us here. But we're gonna readjust the picture a little bit so that we just see his neck alone without the body. So let's do it where right here we'll start, and we'll just kind of do a curve there, and then right here we'll start, and we'll just do a curve right here. So these should be parallel, as closely as you can. And just, keeping the drawing a little simple so we won't worry about the body, just the neck. Here, we're going to do the ears. So the ears are kind of like leaf shape. So you have a leaf. It's like this, typically for a leaf. So it's pretty much that shape here. If you're having a hard time with it, you could do like from the tip to the head, a straight line. And then from there, you could go ahead and do a smoother curve and another curve here, and that might help so you can understand the parallel of the difference. Don't worry if it's not perfect exactly the way I'm doing it, as long as you get it closely. Here you're going to do a curve that comes up, curve that comes up just a bit, and then a U shape right here. So it should come out looking like this. See that? Once you do that, zoom out. Well, I'm going to zoom out a bit. And all you need, I should have mentioned this earlier, is pencil and paper. Which you guys probably already started. Pencil, paper, eraser. So, right here what we're going to do, we're going to follow the direction flow of this antler. So you just do a line that curves like this, comes out. That. Another thing to keep in mind, especially when we do these structural layouts for the drawing, to do them light, so eventually we're going to erase these lines anyway that are in the center here, like this cross and stuff. So when you draw too heavy in the beginning, it makes it harder to erase those things, but if you draw light in the beginning, it's easier to erase those things, and the areas that you do want to keep for later, you could refine them by darkening them in a little bit, like the outside lines, for instance, towards the end when we're finishing up. Just another little tip for you. So here I'm going to do likewise a line that comes out this way, then it curves up. Okay? So this is what you should have. just a line that comes up, and another line that comes up this way. Alright, so you can see already how I'm not just immediately starting from some spot and just drawing the antlers and drawing the ear, and as it's coming, I'm breaking it down to the simplest forms and then building layer by layer on top of that. That's a good way to help you draw things, especially if there's things that you're not sure how to tackle. That's a better method to capturing it fully, because it's like simplifying the steps for you. Kind of like a construction worker laying the foundation of the house before he builds the house. Alright, so same thing likewise. What we'll do another line here, here, just representing the other little horns coming out of these antlers. Just for now. And try to keep them light. So it's just like that. Just a quick sketch layout of what you're doing. Okay. Afterwards, you'll go ahead and thicken out the lines by going outside of them. Do the first one first, which is like the one that's the main one coming up here. You can stop around at this point because they split anyway around here into 3 different horns. And here, I'll do the outside. And the outside line here too. So see, now I got the thickness of the main antler that's coming out on both sides. Afterwards, I'll use the same method for the smaller horns coming out of the antler. And they're sharp at the tip, like little canine teeth, or triangles. And notice they're not like a perfect triangle like that, they have some slight curvature to them. If you're a young artist, you're just starting out and you want to do it like a triangle, that's okay. You want to get closer to the image here, then try to curve it out just a little bit. Bit of a U shape right here. You have one here. Already did one over there. Another one on that side. Alright, so now you have your antlers. See? And at this point, we got all the basic forms and shapes to make up the deer. So now we got to do a cleanup phase. These extra lines that we don't need no more we could erase, including the areas of the face. And after we do that, then we would do some fine-tuning detail. Actually, there's one more thing we'll do before we do that. So right here, if you look at the eyes carefully, I'll go back to the reference image and make it more clear. See how there's a little bit of shadow right there at the tip of the eyes? Like the eye itself is this. And don't mind the pixelation of this deer reference image. It's meant to be a smaller picture, so the pixelations are more blurry when you blow it up bigger. So but we're just using it as reference, so don't mind. And not being high resolution. So let me go ahead to my pencil, and right here, this little triangle shape, I'm going to go ahead and capture that. That's coming down right at the corner of the eyes. Alright. Won't worry so much about the top one as much. I mean, if I want to do a little line right there, kind of that, almost like an eyeliner look on the deer. And then I think with that part, here you could do a nostril shape like this. If if you want. Like a little circle. Bring this down lower so you don't get confused. Just so we can capture the nose a bit better. Okay. After you do that, we will begin our cleanup phase. So let me erase this, not erase, but take that away. So you can see some of these lines we don't need no more, like this cross. Go ahead and erase that. The line that comes there. The line that's here. Here we'll erase. Comes between the nose, we'll erase that. If you erase some lines that you didn't mean to, you can always redraw them in. I feel like his eye is a little too close on that side. That's actually because of the angle that he's at. But I'm going to use a little cheap move that I could get away with because I'm working on a digital platform. But normally you could just redraw it. It's a minor thing, so don't feel like you need to if it is a little slightly off to the side a bit more. Just something that I personally noticed that I wanted to take away and adjust. So here we'll erase that line. The line representing the skull or the circular part of the head, you erase that. Smooth out these lines a little bit. Now we get to these antlers, the lines that were in between that were meant for a guideline on how to draw the antlers. You erase that. Keep in mind some of these lines, like here, the horn begins to come out in this section, so I'm not going to erase all of this. I'm just going to erase the line that went between them. Erase that. Actually, kind of want to keep that part of the line. This one I'm referring to. This line erase, this one erase. Here erase these. And then go on this side. Erase that, erase that. Erase here. Here. Here, right here. Oops. I mean, if I took that away, it's fine. I just won't leave it. Actually, I will take it away. Alright, so I think I got majority of them. There might be some small little lines that are still there, and if you want to take your extra time to fine-tune them perfect, you can if you want. But I want to make sure that I don't take too much time trying to over-perfect it and then make the lesson go longer than it needs to. Alright, and then I'll erase this because I don't need that there no more anyway. Okay, so once you did the cleanup phase, let's look back at our reference image to see any things that we need to adjust. So take a look at this, you don't see the lines as heavy on the jaw of the deer. So what we could do, we could erase this a little bit. If you keep it, that's fine if you want. Keep it simple for you. But if you want to, you could erase it a little bit and then kind of just make a small angular shape. You also could, let's say, do the small angular shape first, like here and here, and then erase it. That way you could use the circular shape as a guideline. That way the lines are a little more accurate versus erasing first and then you're not sure exactly where those lines go. So just another technique if you needed that kind of assistance. You can always use lines as a guide. And then you see right here, it's not a line that goes across the nose or snout area right there. So go ahead and erase that. Oops. Let's see. Wrong tool. Alright. So now we got a decent face here of the deer. So now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to capture the fur. This part is a nice effective use of using techniques to help capture texture that I'm going to do. So just following the fur lines. Actually start over because that first one was a little too thick. Real thin lines, real small. I'm going to capture the hair on the nose or the snout. Obviously I'm not capturing every single hair on the actual deer. I'm just using this technique to give a sense of the hair. And also right here you can see how the hair kind of flows up and this kind of flow, you know, just keep that in mind. It's almost as if you're petting the animal itself. You're kind of going to have your hand go in the flow of where their fur is anyway, if you're smoothly petting it. So just kind of use that as a, you know, thought process guide. Around here, around the eyes, it's like this way instead. And what we could do a little line here and here to capture the outer part of the eye or the eyebrow area. So these are just little bone structure lines that I'm adding just a little bit. So as I mentioned, this part takes, you know, a while, but in the end it's one technique that does help the overall drawing stand out really good when you're done with it. And sometimes if you feel like you need to take a break just for a moment when doing some of these very repeated steps, you could. For some of you it might be very relaxing just to kind of do these repeated motions, so everybody's a little different with it. And then this is just one technique to kind of capture some of the shading on this deer. There's other ones. This is just one that I like to use. And then here with the ear, you could do maybe some of the lines that are inside the ear a bit darker. Notice how there's a little bit of curvature with some of them because the ear, they're kind of coming out of the ear, some of the hair. And then the hair that's more on the ends, you could do it in that same curvature fashion that we were doing earlier. Okay, so you should have it picture looking like this a bit. So you see how that fur helps it come out a lot. Another thing we'll do for the eyes, we'll darken in the eyes. So what you'll do is we'll capture the shadows here. But when you do it, don't cover up the whole eye as black. Try to leave some areas like here and there like a bit white for the purpose of the highlights coming out of the eyes, the white highlights. It'll give more realism and life to the deer. Of course, if you want to, take more of a cartoon approach, let's say for instance, you wanted to have your deer more like eyes like these, if you're younger and you like that look, you could do that as well. Just, different techniques if you want. Or different process for different styles. So let's go back on the face here a bit closer. I capture the lines on the neck. And you can see how the fur, some of it doesn't just come directly down, they kind of smooth in different directions. Because the fur here on the deer is a lot thicker, you can make the lines a little longer than what you did over here on the face. When you do this, it's almost like a waterfall, how the water doesn't just go straight down, but if they're hitting rocks, sometimes they'll kind of go in slightly different directions. If there was rocks in the way. That's what we're doing over here. Let me delete that now. And if you really want to get good with it, you could capture some of the hair on the sides as well, coming out. If you do that, you might need to erase a little bit of that thicker line that we put originally. So it doesn't overshadow or overpower the more thinner lines that will make representing the fur on the outside of the neck, or the outer parts of the neck. And also notice I'm not putting too much with the more lighter areas of the fur. I will, but I'm kind of doing the darker ones first, and then I'll do a little bit in the lighter area, so there's hair there, but you also get the sense that it's a lighter amount of hair, or a lighter color, because of the shadows. See that? And as always, as mentioned before, if you've seen any of my other videos, you can always pause the video. If you feel it's going too fast, make sure it's, you take the time to do what works best for you, and then you can play the video when you're ready to move forward again. Here, I'm going to do like a little bit of shadow lines for the nose here. And here. And under here too. And I'll also take away this line, which I don't need no more. And here I'll darken inside the nostril itself. And then I'll go do a little bit on the chin. Now we're going to use a similar technique for, actually, let me do some fur lines on the snout here just a little bit. Because it's a lot lighter, the fur, so I don't want to see too much of it in color. But we can put a little bit of it just to give a sense that there's still fur there. It's just not a lot. Bring this eye down a little bit more. I'm going to darken the outside of the eyes just a bit. I'll emphasize them more. Now here for the antlers, notice how you have these lines, kind of like the lines on a tree bark. That's what we're going to do for the antlers here. So similar to what we're doing with the fur, except these lines are a lot longer. Try to make sure they're not in no perfect pattern, that way they can capture the realism a bit more with being an organic material. If things have too much of a perfect pattern, they come across mechanical. But as you draw from observation, whether it's plant life or wildlife, you'll begin to understand that more. And don't worry about anything being perfect, just do your best. That's the main thing. Just do your best, have fun with it. As the more you practice, the better you'll get anyway. Just see, I have these lines here. Actually, that's why I originally wanted to bring that one down lower, is because this part of the horn actually comes down like that. Cool thing about doing it this way is you guys can see where I'm referencing really well as I draw it. See, outside of showing you the step-by-step guide, it's also training your mind on how to develop that step-by-step guide by observation when you're drawing something else. Especially if you're drawing from real life. Or in some cases, imagination. You might create your own fictional creature and you're going to use some of these methods to create something different, like a Pokemon or an anime character. Alright, so let me zoom back, take that away, and now we can see by doing the texture, taking the time, even though it took a while to do, it gives so much more life to our deer. One next shading technique I'm going to do to this, it's hard for me to describe it as much as I want to because I'm using a digital tool and you're most likely going to be using your pencil and erasers. I would say use the side of your pencil, or like if you have a duller pencil where it's not as sharp, we're going to use some shading, just some smooth, soft shadows, nothing too heavy or hard when doing it. And let me get, I'm going to use an airbrush tool here that I have digitally to capture close to what I'm referring to. And so the areas that are a bit darker in shadows, another thing too, make sure that you refine this area really well, that it's like nice and sharp. If you did the cleanup earlier, then doing darker lines in this area shouldn't be a problem, because these are lines you're going to keep. Actually, let me go ahead and kind of touch up the chin just a little bit more. Okay, let me go back to this tool. So now use this as a, so you can see here where there's darker shadows, so I could go ahead and go over some of these, and I could like maybe briefly kind of touch maybe every spot if I want, just really soft. And in other areas, a little bit more pressure, a little more shadows to add in. So that way you can see a difference between the lights and the darks. And if I take away my reference image, you kind of see what I'm coming up with now. So right here, underneath the nose, underneath the muzzle here is a bit more of a shadow. Right here in the neck, there was some areas that are darker. And what you could do to make it smoother, you could take your finger or a Q-tip and like smooth out the pencil shadows that you did, so they have a more softer, almost airbrush-like quality to it. Just be careful that you don't smudge it too hard and you take away your sharper fur lines that you added in there with your pencil. Yes, you can always redraw it in there, but you know, just be careful, delicate with it, because if you did it right, it's a lot of little steps, so you don't have to redo that stuff. And if you do make a mistake, that's okay. It's practice. You'll get better. You can always rewatch the video or try something else that you see using the same techniques. So see how on the top part it's lighter, so I'm not going to touch those areas much. It's more below the antler that I'm touching, because that's where you see the shadows more so. So I'm going to zoom out, let you guys take a look at what I got so far. You can see how applying those shadows there really give it life. Now let me go back to that tool. I'm going to do it a little bit in the eyes a bit. So again, just the bottom areas, and then some areas right here. Because the light is coming, you know, from the sun, it's coming from above. So the stuff below are going to be darker, you know, like underneath his chin and stuff and all that. But because it's sunlight, it's ambient light. If it was like one source light where everything's darker around them, the shadows and the lights would be stronger contrast. Just a little tips on how to observe light sources. Okay, so there's more I could apply to give it a little more enhancement in color if I want. But I don't want this to be a video that takes too much of your time. So we'll leave it at this. I'll go ahead and sign my name, as I encourage you to do the same. Actually, let me bring it up a little higher. There we go. We have our deer antler drawing. And if there are the areas you want to touch up a bit more, always take your time to do so. Alright. Hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward for you guys doing some more with me sometime soon. Alright, take care and enjoy. And by the way, once again, this is Mr. Joshua Tukes, or Joshua Tukes, however you want to call me. Take care, you guys.
Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that art lesson. Again, you saw how I took the step-by-step process of how to create the deer. And, you know, that's going to be the simple format for the next few series of videos that I'll be doing. Now, in the future, I will be creating other videos such as painting, and acrylic painting and watercolor painting, and other things and other subjects to draw, such as people and places. So keep that in mind. That's to come. So check out what I got for now. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Enjoy.